Hi guys, and welcome to the 11-month update for the ants. Now in the last video that I did midway through this month, you saw that all the ants were escaping. Now some people, given my track record, thought they'd all escaped and died. That wasn't the case. I was able to keep them in the Whitong nest outworld. It was just one or two would escape, but they ended up going back, but it just wasn't safe enough to take the acrylic nest out of the outworld because we would definitely lose them. So I'm happy to say I still have them. What I did was stick blue tack around where they were escaping, and that did work for a bit, but then I saw one had escaped the other day, so that sucks. Now, looking back at the footage, what I think was wrong is just here, there was a little gap. Now, looking at this one, there isn't a gap. So I got into contact with AntKit, and I have to say they've been incredibly helpful. So shout out to Luke, thank you very much for helping me out. They've sent me another one, so I'm going to try out this one. Now, what I may do before that is put some sealant around here to make sure it's extra safe, but I have to say compared to the other one there doesn't seem to be a gap. I also have a spare connector to replace the other one, so very thankful for that. And a really cool thing that came, what I should have had before, was a test tube adapter. Now I'll just quickly see if it would fit in here. Yeah, it would fit perfectly, look at that. And you know what, I looked this up and these only range from 75p to £1.50 depending on the size of your test tube. How much easier would that be? And then you just connect that to that. See, this is why I should look around the website a bit more. And also they sent this really cool little pen thing with a light so we can look at the ants. So what I'm going to do now is get the other acrylic nest out, remove the blue tack, and let's see if there's a difference between these two gaps to be sure. Okay, first thing to point out is the nest, the colony have moved into here. So the only ants are moving around because I've just moved them, but before they were all just contained in here, and that's where the queen is, and the eggs, and the larvae, and all that. So if we take off the blue tack, we look close, there is a there's a subtle gap here. I don't know if you'll be able to pick that up on camera, but there's definitely a gap. So it's a little bit later and I found some sealant, but the only sealant I had was the brown stuff. If you remember with the tank build, I used brown sealant. So no, I thought, well, that's what I've got to use. And I went to pull this out and it won't come out. But not only that, but this is so secure compared to the last one that I couldn't even fit a bit of paper between those two bits. So if the ants are escaping from this, there's something seriously wrong. They're amazing ants. So I'm pretty confident they won't be able to escape out of this. So I'm going to connect the other test tube to this and hopefully they'll move in. So this is the old one, and as you may be able to see, all here is where they've collected all their dirt. They're living in here, and here is a cricket that they've been feasting on. I also put a dab of honey on this cotton the other day. They went crazy for it. So let's pull this out. I haven't got any ants on there, that's good. Right. Now what I'm going to do is cover this up completely, also put some water in there, and so they may hopefully move. There's a queen again. She's not happy with me. She's not having a good day. Okay guys, so it's been about 2 weeks since I last filmed and so much has happened. So much mainly in the last few days that I may speak quickly because I don't want this video going on for ages. So we start off on Friday when I discovered a massive ant nest. You may have seen that video. Now the tray that was on top of that ant nest, I tilted upwards, exposed it so there were no ants around it. The next day was Saturday, very stormy day, and I tipped out the empty tray. It had some soil in it, so I put it in with the rest of the soil and started to put it into a planter, a different planter. And as I said, this was a really stormy day, so it started to pour down. When I was moving around that dirt though, I found a little batch of pupae, about 10 to 15 of them, and I assumed it came from the nest that I saw. Now because of the weather, pretty much the ant nest had closed up. The original one, there was none of them out, and my garden pretty much got flooded. So I quickly rushed them in and put them in the feeding tube, which is at the front of the acrylic nest. And I came back to find they'd all moved in, and as you may be able to see, they're a very different size to the pupae I have. So I thought, okay, these are probably like kind of older generations of workers because that nest has been there for years. Then on the Monday, I started to panic because all of a sudden I thought, actually, those big orange pupae in the nest were probably queens and the slightly smaller ones were males, and you may have seen there were many more males than females. And that means I'm in a bit of a tricky position. So then last night I was filming because I thought one was hatching out, and there were these two ants trying to help it out. Well, I assumed they were trying to help it out. And I filmed for ages. I filmed this whole time lapse and I was really excited, filmed for about 45 minutes, and then I realised, I don't know if this is by accident or on purpose, but they pulled the head off. And so they decided to feed the head to the larvae and feed the rest of the ant to the larvae. Then this evening I went to check and one has actually hatched out, and it is a flying ant. It's a male. I have to say though, earlier I saw him and he was all rolled over and everything, and I thought they were killing him, but he actually looks a bit better now. So they may be preparing him like ants do. But I'm going to try to avoid this problem with the rest of them. It's going to be quite tricky though, because over here, they're all mingled in with the other pupae. But right now, I'm going to hope my opposable thumbs work, and I'm going to try to carefully use some bamboo and try to remove these pupae.
A few inches later.
Failed attempt number 1. So yes, honey is nice and sticky and it's the only thing I have around here that I know would be safe. But it attracts some unwanted guests, so they have nicked my bamboo right at the moment. It's a bit tricky because I didn't want to move the bamboo too much in case I actually squish some of my workers. But it is currently in the nest. As you can see, they're having a little feast. So by the way, we have about 19 workers now. A new one hatched today. And when I opened the tube thing up, all the ants obviously ran off, and this one has just hatched out, so it's still kind of weak. And I saw one of the ants carry it because it wanted to move so quickly. Like, if there's one animal that you could say defines teamwork, it's ants. They're incredible. I think you can actually see the newish one because it's slightly lighter brown, but yeah, they've nicked my piece of bamboo, so that's great. So I managed to remove 8 of the pupae. Doesn't seem a lot, but it has vastly reduced the number in the nest, so hopefully we'll have less problems now. There's like 5 left in there and that male. Still not 100% sure whether they're helping it or killing it. So this is a bit of a shame. I found this ant in the tube that is attached to the nest, and although it's moving a little bit, obviously by the way it looks, it may be dying. So I got a tiny thin, it was like hair thin bit of bamboo, and brought it out, gave it a bit of honey, a bit of water, but I don't know if it's really responding much. So I put it back in the tunnel or the tube, and one of the ants carried it and brought it back into the nest. So I know I have seen ants in the wild like carry the dead ones, and they tend to do it to like move them out. I don't know, I wish you could kind of understand like what they're doing. Maybe some people know, but whether they're like trying to see if it is actually dead, whether they're trying to revive it, or they're thinking, this is a mill, I don't know. But what I think it is, I think it's the first ever worker we had because it is the smallest and the eldest one. I don't know how long workers usually live. I thought it was a couple years, but it might be shorter for like the first ever workers. This worker is literally dragging him. There's this one worker who is like making sure all his wings are all nice, but also you better not be nicking those eggs. Really sort of forcing him towards the queen. I don't know what the queen really thinks of all this. Oh, hello. A little peck on the cheek, isn't that nice? So it's the next day and I took the 8 pupae outside and the ants took them almost instantly. I wish I'd filmed it actually. They all came out and just took them straight down into the nest and it was all perfect. So still we got 5 in there. I'm not quite sure whether the male is alive today. He doesn't really look it. So maybe he bred with the queen last night, I don't know. But I'm going to end this here because it is the 1st of July, so technically this would be the 12-month update. So I hope you've enjoyed this video, even though it's been really, really long. Thank you very much for watching, guys, and goodbye.